Hello, everyone, and welcome to the season finale of My Perfect Purpose. Be on the lookout for the new episodes coming in the fall. I'm so excited. I just want to thank you all for listening, subscribing, and supporting. It means the world to me. I pray that each one of you have found at least one thing from the past episodes to inspire you to connect with God wholeheartedly and to just spend more time with Him, so that He can reveal all of the great plans that He has for you. God loves you. He cares for you. You are known by God. The God of this universe sees and hears you. Today's guest is a prime example of the many ways God can use you. She is connected to the voice of God, and it shows in her work. She is an entrepreneur, activist, state of Mississippi representative, educator, and so much more. Please join me in welcoming Representative Lataisha Jackson.
Thank you so much, sister, for having me.
No problem. You're such an inspiration. I'm just glad you're here. So let's just jump into the first question. So you're a lady of many hats and you're doing so many great things for the community. Can you tell me, how was your journey to purpose?
My journey to purpose was divinely orchestrated as a part of God's plan for my life. I was elected as state representative in 2013 after moving back home to Como, Mississippi, and starting a nonprofit in 2001. My predecessor died in office, and that's how the seat became vacant. And I say that, and I mention that to say it wasn't that it was my personal plan to run in 2013. The unexpected happened, and that's pretty much been my life. When the unexpected happens, God provides opportunities. In 2013, when my predecessor died in office, my grandmother, Bessie Eppinger, died around the same time that he died, and the seat became vacant. So I wasn't even in a mental space to even have the notion of who was going to replace him or to even consider myself in the position. And so I lead by saying that it was God's divine order for my predecessor to die in office, for me to return home in enough time to regain residency, to even run and be qualified to run in the position. And so, I just give God the glory for the opportunities that He's presented in my life. And I definitely, don't want to take the credit for what He's done and what He's aligned to happen. It's important that we're in His will and in His, so that when things are aligned, we can walk in the authority and that we can walk into the blessings and the overflow that He has for us. So I'm very fortunate, as you said, as you were introducing me, that I listened to the voice of God, because it was the voice of God that moved me and compelled me to return home to start the nonprofit. And in steps of starting the nonprofit, I was able to build a more of a personal and professional relationship within the community, with people, with entities. And it was just His plan. And so His divine plan led me into being elected in 2013, and He's been blessing me ever since.
So being a politician or that wasn't in the plan for you. Was that ever a thought, or?
Well, I've worked around politics, so I have had experiences around politicians. And quite frankly, as a student at Alabama State, I desired to be a lobbyist. So
Yeah.
that was too, to be around politics, but never really to be the actual leader or the politician or the public servant. So it was not my personal plan or my personal goal to do so. And even my running was a God ordained decision. I went in prayer and with my family, and God confirmed and reaffirmed in me that if not me, then who? And
Yeah.
if not at that moment, then when? And so he just reaffirmed in so many ways that he had called me for a significant time as such, and how he had been preparing me over the years. Growing up in a small country church, and I remember getting the opportunity, in my church to be able to speak before people, and having an opportunity through that same church to go on the radio with my mom and the pastor. It was so many things that I could look back to where I am now, and I see where God was really just ordering the steps.
Yeah.
The scripture says that the steps of a good man are ordered by God, and I see that being really evident in my life, because I had no idea that I was coming back to do this. And so many people thought I was crazy. Like, you're living in Chicago, it's so many opportunities in Chicago, and you're young and in a small town. What can you do in a small town? And they counted the opportunities to be rather limited in this small town. And God used a very small space and just calls my name to be made greater in a smaller area where there's really no limits. I've been fortunate in this position to travel and work with other state leaders in other areas, and he's really expanded the territory. So I would really have to just echo, it's his grace. I mean, and it's his favor that has allowed my territory to be increased by his divine order and plan for my life.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned your nonprofit. So where was Educate first out of? Where did that come from?
So growing up in Mississippi, we didn't have a YMCA. We didn't have Boys and Girls Club in Como. And I remember when I was 8 years old, I told my grandfather when I got rich, I was going to do something about it, because kids needed something to do, and it was nothing to do around here.
Yeah.
And I didn't get rich in the aspect of tangible monetary wealth that we would attribute to richness, but I was rich with opportunities.
Yeah.
Where when I was in Chicago, I worked for the city, and it was after school programs there, and with the city colleges of Chicago, summer enrichment programs, and so many other things. And I got to see, and I was exposed to so many opportunities that were availed to the youth in that area. And I wanted to see that done at home.
Yeah.
I wanted to have that. And I never will forget, living in Chicago, I just had this sense of urgency where God even named Educate, and he started to just keep it before me. And initially I came back in 2009 with the back to school rally, because as in Chicago, there were these huge convoys of hope where individuals could get groceries, haircuts, back to school supplies, uniforms, backpacks. And I wanted to see that type of collaborative effort in our community, with churches, with the city, or with the towns and the community. So in 2009, I did one in the summer in Como with the town mayor, and in the fall of 2009 in Crenshaw with Crenshaw's mayor and community leaders. And the events were really successful. And I never would forget when we were at the rally in Como, it started to sprinkle.
Yeah.
And a little girl was there, and she came up to me, and the kids weren't leaving even though it was sprinkling, and I'm like, okay, you got your supplies, everything was good. And y'all have a good one. And because again, nothing to do.
Yeah.
They stayed in the midst of the mist, and the little girl came up to me and she was like, well, you should do this every day.
Wow.
And that little girl was Ania Taylor, and I never would forget that. Like, that touched me. So I go back to Chicago, and all I can see is this little girl wanting something every day, and I remembered the child within me that wanted and had the same desires. And so it stayed before me, and I decided to come home for Thanksgiving in 2010. When I came home for Thanksgiving in 2010, I did not go back to Chicago. We opened Educate January 2011, and it has been a success ever since. Not that it has not withstood trials and tribulations. We do not receive any state or federal money.
Wow.
But to God's glory and giving provision for the vision, we've been providing services for 10 years.
Wow.
And, the summer enrichment programs are great for the youth. The after school programs are great. And even in the midst of COVID, we were able to do virtual learning assistance to students that were not in in-person schooling.
Yeah.
And being able to pick them up from their homes on our own transportation and bringing them to the facility and providing them with the academic support services, just showed how important, God's vision and plan is for a community, because we don't really know what the future holds. We know who holds it.
Yeah.
But having and doing the things that he has designed for us to do, our purpose for us to do.
Yeah.
It connects to so many other things and so many other people and purposes that it's vital that we just listen and we be obedient. And out of the spirit of obedience, the organizational structure of Educate has really taught me, and increased my faith in a way that I just had to believe God when it came down to us needing the very first 15 passenger van that we got. I had to believe God for it, and that he would supply the needs of the organization. And he did. And he did it again and again and again. And I've been met with so many adversities in the midst of, continuing. After getting elected, you would think, oh yeah, well, now you have greater resources availed to you. But when I got elected, it moved me out of the position of the day-to-day of the organization.
Yeah.
And my participants were happy for me, but at the same time, they were sad because they knew by my not being able to be there, I was going to have someone else, and they didn't really see if it was going to be feasible for someone else to carry on all of the roles that I was filling. And so, of course, their role increased when that happened. So when I increased or was elevated in the position as state representative, I had to believe God for the personnel to be able to step in place and do the needed work there at the center. But I guarantee you, we have not gone without. We have been able to have the sufficiency for the program. And it's just been amazing to see God's hand and his provision in every step of this journey.
Yeah, you brought up a good point. You said that while in the midst of Educate and Purpose, you encountered, some storms, some trials. So can you speak on that a little bit about how, purpose doesn't mean that everything is always peachy keen,
No, purpose does not mean that you're not met with adversity.
Yeah.
um, in the midst of working to fulfill the mission and the purpose of Educate, I have been personally attacked, or I wouldn't even say attacked, but I've had personal challenges that have happened. We started in 2011, and my family was vital to the start and the continuation of the program. So I'm now elected as state representative, and in the midst of that, my brother is working diligently with me, my only sibling. And, we had went from 2011 to 2016 without receiving state and federal funding. And at that time, we had 2 vans. And so resources were present.
Mm-hmm.
Payroll, we met the challenge of believing God for provision for payroll. Yeah. So you would think we're in a smooth sailing space and everything well, and the provision is there for those things.
Yeah.
And so I had to believe God on another level. Because in 2016, in the midst of our summer enrichment program, which is one of the most demanded programs that we have, because again, kids don't have much to do in the summer.
Yeah.
The week after my brother worked the program, the very week after he took his vacation from working from the program, my only sibling died in a car accident.
Mm.
And I was faced with, how do I continue?
Yeah.
How do I have enough tenacity, enough faith to keep going after a blow like this?
Yeah.
After experiencing pain that I never would have imagined, the unexpected. Again, when I talked earlier, I talked about how, when I ran for the seat for representative, the unexpected happened. My grandmother died, and here I am, being asked to run for a position and take on a campaign and so much more. So in 2016, I am faced with the most difficult thing that had ever happened in my life. Mm-hmm. That money couldn't fix.
Yeah.
That, nothing was able to change the state of this other than the power of God to heal us and comfort us through this loss and of his transition. And so it was tough, in the middle of the summer program, I was faced with, do I continue Educate, summer program of 2016? Do I continue the efforts of Educate and state representative and the other things? At that time, I was in law school, my last semester of law school.
Yeah.
And to be hit that hard with so much, it was only by God's grace that I was able to continue with the things that God had led me and blessed me to be able to do. So it's not that things are given or things are obtained and the sustainability is not a challenge in the purpose walk that we walk in.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, sis, it's easy to start something, but to remain steadfast in it.
That's true.
After you've overcome this fear, overcome this barrier, and then to have the most devastating thing to happen to you, and then you got to look death in the face and say, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, because God, you're still with me.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to finish, and you keep pushing and you keep pressing. And I just can't say how much of if it weren't for my faith,
Yeah.
it is no way possible I would have been able to remain steadfast and continue the things that God had blessed me to be able to do. Very fortunate for the people and the support in my life during that time, and that helped me at Educate with the summer program to continue it. We were able to complete our complete program. In the midst of that, I know God's hand was on me, and his anointing and favor was present in my life, because during that most difficult time in my life, I had challenges in law school, because I'm in law school in 2014 after getting elected and serving as state representative, and challenging doing both because of the commitment of both. And I had challenges, just maintaining the study habits that I needed to excel academically. But during the most difficult time in my life, I was in law school in summer classes during my brother's accident and his death. Mm-hmm. And I got the highest grades on exams, because in law school, it's just one test. Mm-hmm. So after my brother's funeral, I didn't get any special privilege from the University of Mississippi. Yeah. I had my exams the week after my brother's funeral. Wow. And God's hand and favor was on me, because the inability to focus would creep in my mind, like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this. I mean, it's going to be so hard for me to focus. Mm-hmm. There's no way I'm going to be able to sit for this exam. I was conflicted with maybe I should move it, but it was my last semester. So I needed to take it in that small window. Yeah. And under duress, God showed me like how he was with me. Yeah. And I got, the best grades ever. Wow. in that semester. Wow. And so that was just God showing me yet again, I'm with you. Yeah. No matter what, I'm with you. No matter what it is in life, I'm with you. Yeah. And he's shown me that before, because the same God was with me when my father died my freshman year of college. Mm. The same God was there to be with me, to assure me. And that death was different from this one, because my father was ill. Yeah. And he had outlived the expectancy that the doctors had even rendered. Mm. And it was tough, but the unexpected death of my brother was devastating for me. Mm-hmm. And God just really showed himself to be faithful. He showed himself to comfort me even now. Yeah. Because it's a process. Yeah. As we walk in our purpose and through the journey of life that he gives us all individually, it is a true process. Mm-hmm. And I have so much evidence of God's favor, of his hand on my life, and his comfort to me, and his guidance for me. I trusting and believing God has been the ultimate way that I've been able to prosper in life. And that's relative to however people may want to quantify prosperity. But the ultimate way of my prosperity has been the obedience that I've had in the things that God has instructed me to do. Yeah. And him just showing me through every valley, through every situation, I'm with you. Yeah.
And I just want to the audience out there that may be facing any difficulties or going through, by listening to Lataisha's testimony, we just have to learn to depend and trust on God, and just know wholeheartedly that he loves us, he cares for us, and that he's always there, even when we can't see, or sometimes we look for that feeling of and sometimes we can't find that. But God is always there. Whatever you're going through, God is there. And trust his process because he has a plan. And it's going to work out for you good. It will. So, Lataisha, I want to know, you're such an inspiration to so many people. Where do you draw inspiration from?
I'm inspired by the faith and the will of so many women and so many people around me that have been able to triumph against so many odds. We can look to people that are, I guess, prosperous in material things and individuals that have been elevated professionally and say, oh yeah, I want to be like that, or I want to do that. And that's great. I mean, that's great to have an to be inspired by someone on those levels.
Yeah.
But I draw strength from, and again, this goes back to the small town community, the homegrown upbringing that I have from the Big Mama Nims.
Yeah.
Who really surprise individuals and people in their abilities, Jessica, to make a way out of no way.
Yeah.
When I look back at the power and the strength of the ancestors. Yeah. And I'm not just saying biological ancestors, but even biblical ancestors.
Yeah.
I get energized and I get so much hope and inspiration to say, God, if you did that for them.
Yeah.
If I trust you, you can do it for me. And that's with every situation of my life, you all. I mean, I'm going to go a little personal because, the things that we're talking about right now, it's kind of surface. Yeah. You can Google Lataisha Jackson and see I'm a state representative. You can see that I graduated from Ole Miss Law School, and you can see those things. You can find out about educate, and that's great. But even professionals have personal issues. Yeah. That we have to see God and seek God for direction on. So I said Big Mama Nia because when I started educate, I had to use the principles of taking a little and being faithful over it to bless many. And that kind of faith is what I saw in the widow woman. Yeah. In the Bible, who was dying and where it was a famine, and all she had was a little for her and her son. Yeah. And her faith was tested to give to the hunger, and not even so much of the hunger, but just to the prophet. But when she did, she didn't have to worry about not eating or not having food anymore. She had enough. Yeah. Because of her faithfulness and her inability to look, in her ability to see beyond her ailments as just being small. So that's the kind of inspiration that I draw. And we know that biblically, being preached, hearing that in sermons or maybe a Bible story or whatever, but our grandmothers, our aunts and great uncles that had very little and made a way out of no way. Yeah. It's the same thing that some of us had to do in this pandemic. It's some of the things that we have had to do when we have had stages in life where we may not have had everything. Yeah. And it's something to be thankful and grateful to God when all is well.
That's so true.
But you remember the lady in the Bible who said all was well when her son was dead. Yeah. I mean, she's going to meet the prophet and she's asked, How's everybody? And she responds, all is well.
Yeah.
So that kind of tenacity and that kind of power in the tongue has been inspirational for me.
Yeah.
That when the personal is not well, it's still well.
Well,
When the money is not well, it's still well. When the vision and the foresight is not well, it's still well, because I'm going to the prophet. I'm going to God. I'm going to the helper who's going to help me in the situation of life. And that's where I draw the inspiration. And that's how I fill my cup when I get empty.
Yeah.
And I do get empty because I pour out a lot. I try to inspire. I try to encourage. But even the encouragers need encouragement. And so I go to the rock, sis. I really do. I go to God. I go to God. My personal relationship, you all, with God means so much to me. I cry out to him openly about every situation in my life, whether it's a romantic situation, whether it's professionally, whatever it is, I openly talk to God.
Yeah.
And that communication is what feeds me. It feeds my mind. It feeds my body. It feeds my soul. He talks to me and he shows me things to come and he prepares me. And, we say sometimes in the natural, oh, something said. That conscious mind of the Spirit of the Holy Ghost telling us what to do is what it is when I say he talks to me.
Yeah.
I'm referred to it as something said. It's God said for me. Yeah. And I move when he say move. And I know, and even in my weakness, I go before him so that I may be strong, even in my weakness. And whatever that weakness is for me, I go to the Father and I receive his strength. It is not that I do not experience things of the world where individuals bring hate or envy, jealousy, strife.
Yeah.
I experience all of that. I don't display or discuss a lot of the negativity that happens to me on a daily.
Yeah.
But it hurts.
Yeah, it does.
But I go to the comforter in those moments. And in those moments when I'm able to go to the Father and talk to him about the hurtful things that happen to me in various relationships and various professional relationships, personal relationships. Yeah. When I go to the Father about those things, he gives me a word for it. And that's how important the word of God is. It's a word for everything. Yeah. What did I tell you to do with those that despitefully use you? Yeah. Everybody is not a cheerleader for Lataisha Jackson. With new levels, people say come new levels. I mean, everybody's not a cheerleader for me. Yeah. Everybody don't want to see the progression and the growth and see the elevation. Yeah. But yet we have to continue to trust God. Yet we have to know who we are and whose we are.
That's key. Yeah.
And so because I know who I am and I know who it is that has given me the power and the ability to do what I'm doing, I let God handle the naysayers. I let God handle the people that operate in an unloving way to me. And then you know what? He often redirects me to love them. Bless them in spite of. And that's the testimony of my life. And in the midst of the adversities, in the midst of the challenges of life, when I do the things that he calls me to do, when I follow the instructions that he put before me and I walk in the paths that he leads for me, I see his provision. Yeah. I see his greatness. And I am able to live in the glory of that greatness as a result of the obedience. Now, you all, there are times that I want to do what I want to do.
We all do.
But because of God's faithfulness, He reminds me time after time after time the benefit of walking into His light in His way. Because as I started this conversation, I said, I wanted to be a lobbyist.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go and do this and stay here and live here. God had another plan. But out of the obedience and my following His steps and the steps that He had ordered for me, I could not have received anything greater on my own steps or in my own way. It wouldn't have been aligned as such in my own way.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping that if nothing else, that individuals are inspired to seek God for their purpose,
Mm-hmm.
to seek God for the perfected purpose that He has for them. He has no respectable person. So it's not just a, oh, that's what He had for you thing, or that's what He had for the other guests that you had. You've had several guests on the show. I mean, I listen to the show. It feeds my spirit and my faith. And so many people have talked about so many various things, but we're all echoing the same sentiments.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying, hey, I listen to God.
Yes.
I had a challenge with giving birth to a child.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to let go and surrender to God. And in that surrendering, I was able to give birth to the baby.
Yeah.
Well, if it's your dream, if it's a professional goal that you have, surrendering to God, following His steps is the way to be able to get to the destiny that's best for your life.
Yeah.
And so that's what it's been for me. And I just thank God so much for His hand and a protection on me. I thank Him for His covering and so many things that He has been able to unveil in me. You know, the scripture says that the present time can't compare to the glory that will be revealed through us. See, I look at my life as I am the hand and feet of God in the earth realm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if it's a mission, if it's a task, or if it's a person,
That's good.
if it's a situation, then they're going to see God through me.
Yeah.
We are the ambassadors. And so we need to all walk in the purpose so that this transformation can really happen, that people are reluctant about now because they don't really see as many people walking in the same authority that we're walking in the authority in the biblical times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's how important our purposes really are in this nation, and especially at this set time.
Yeah.
Because the glory will be revealed through us.
Yeah, they need to see it. They need to see it. So I encourage everyone out there, get connected to God. Find out. Begin that relationship. Start it to know the plans that He has for you all. And so, Lataisha, what's next? What can we expect next from you? What else is going on?
So I am happily working in Irvin Law Firm right now.
Okay, great.
And I'm really excited to be a partner in a part of the firm, I should say. Not a partner yet, but I am a part of this law firm, and I primarily do estate work. Okay. And business law, where I have business contracts and work as general counselor for some of the businesses that we represent within our firm. And so I'm really excited about that. This is a new space for me. And being in this capacity, I've been able to help so many families with property after death, helping individuals prepare for life after death with wills, and just being able to assure the inheritance of their children is probated and the rightful owners are able to receive it, to keep family property within family. And that's been a blessing for me. So I'm grateful to God for that space that I'm in. And I am really trying to increase my efforts within the women that are incarcerated missions that I have committed to. So you're going to see more work in that aspect of criminal justice reform legislatively. Politically, so many people have been saying and wondering, are you going to run for something else next? Or, what's the political plan?
Yeah.
And I have to be honest, I am really wanting to have a family.
Yeah.
And I am looking forward to God's direction in that area of my life.
Yeah.
And so I'm not putting a lot of focus on what's next for me politically. Is it a higher seat or another position? I'm not there. I'm not looking to that elevation. But I am looking to God and wanting to stay in his will, in his way. And so just like the other opportunities that have happened, I was kind of led by him and his people to elevate or to do the things that I've done or take the positions that I've taken. I'm looking to God continuously in my life, and whatever he has next, I pray that I'm ready, willing, and able to walk in it. And so whatever that is, you all, you heard it from me first. It wasn't because I said, I'm going to be the next this, or I'm telling you what I'm wanting. I'm wanting to be a mother. I'm wanting to be a wife. I'm wanting to take on that role.
Yeah.
But whatever God has for me next, I'm going to definitely be obedient. And I know he is going to be the same God that gives me the ability to walk in the authority and do whatever that might be. But what that is, who knows what our awesome God has planned. I'm just here for the journey and preparing in the ways that he's preparing me in the unseen, because I don't know what it is yet, and I haven't heard it yet. But one thing about it, and one thing's for sure, whatever he leads me to, I'm willing to say yes.
Yeah, no, that's key. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. I like to end on my moment to minister. So give me a number between 1 and 55 and end it for us on this topic.
All right, let's go with 29.
Okay, 29 is hope. Okay.
Hope.
Yeah.
So faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. My life has been a testament of hope and an evidence, a testament of faith. And I would just like to encourage everyone that's listening to the podcast to really trust God, really believe God for every vision, through every valley, through every storm, with every adversity. Trust him in whatever the process is for you right now.
Yeah.
And in that process and in that space where you are right now, know that he is the same God that is able, willing, and that has already brought you out of some things that will continue to strengthen you and continue to catapult you into some positions and places that eyes haven't seen, ears heard. And he's the same God with the provision for the vision for whatever it is that it is in your life. Lastly, if it's not a issue of tangible thing that you can equate, and it's peace that's needed, or it's healing, and we need hope for that. I mentioned when my brother died how I had elevated and I felt like I'd mastered faith for provision for things.
Mm-hmm.
But I needed to master having faith for healing for a broken heart.
Yeah.
Okay? So if your hope level is, I need hope to heal my broken heart, the same comforter is here to aid us and to comfort us in such a way in our lowest of lows. And I want you to know that though you may not see it right now, the best still is yet to come. Thank you so much, sister, for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thanks again, Representative Jackson, for being here. We were truly blessed by your testimony and your life in general. You can find Miss Jackson. She's on Facebook, and Educate is located in Como, Mississippi. So reach out to her. She's such an inspiration to us all. And thank you guys for listening, subscribing, and tuning in. Be sure to check back with me in the fall. And remember, yes, we are flawed, but we are perfect for the purpose that God has for us. I love you guys, and thank you.